What's going on, everyone? Ains here, and today for this feature, we're going to be talking about the future of gaming. Now, I know the future of gaming is a really broad concept, so specifically, we're going to be talking about how gaming will continue to evolve over the next few years. In particular, we're going to be building upon the concepts we covered throughout the channel in shows like For the Record, Bitcast, producer roundtables, and other features like this. Because at the end of the day, the gaming industry is evolving rapidly. And it's due to a wealth of factors, including technical advancements, globalization of the industry, social engagement, and more. And now, how those culminate in changing players' day-to-day interactions with the games and the platforms they enjoy is going to be the focus, as it's obviously fair to say that people across the globe interact with video games in countlessly different ways. So I'll begin with what I believe is the most obvious of factors, and that is the continual introduction of more powerful hardware. We're nearly 2 years into the PS5 and Xbox Series generation, which is kind of hard to believe, honestly. But AMD's RDNA 2 GPUs, their Zen 3 CPUs, and Nvidia's 3000 series GPUs are becoming more commonplace, especially now that the supply chain constraints are starting to lessen. So it won't be long now until we begin to see the full feature set of the more advanced RDNA 3 GPUs and 4 CPUs, along with Nvidia's 4000 series GPUs, and obviously those will drive performance increases across the board. It's also hard to believe I'm going to say this out loud, but DisplayPort 2.0 compatibility is coming in the near future as well, which means 8K gaming is on the horizon. Now, I realize that that's something that we're not really trying to think about right now, but DisplayPort 2.0 compatibility does support uncompressed video at 8K 60Hz or 4K 240Hz with HDR. So it's going to be a nice advancement for not only PC hardware, but obviously consoles in the future. As always, resolution and frame rate will be at the forefront of the conversation when it comes to how gaming will improve. Now, the big question, of course, that people are asking at this point is, are we going to see mid-gen refreshes for the Xbox Series XS and PS5? Rumors, of course, say yes. Naturally, the official word from Xbox has been a lighthearted no. Personally, I'm not sure. I'm one who would love it. I honestly prefer for the consoles to be upgraded as often as possible because I like the game on console and I like the best experience in that kind of space. And quite frankly, with the speed at which technology advances right now, I'm not sure consoles can continue to have 5 to 7 year generations without an upgrade. But as always, time will tell. Just for fun, I'm going to say we will see upgrades and add one vote into willing them into existence. Of course, I hope PlayStation simply takes the piss and eventually calls it the PlayStation 5.5, because I think that would be hilarious. But when it comes to technology advancements, frankly, those are known and expected. And they are talked about ad nauseum. We know we're going to see more detailed graphics, more consistent and higher frame rates, technologies like ray tracing becoming more commonplace, and more. So in terms of the technology powering games, I'm personally much more interested in processing efficiency and improvements in the areas of machine learning and AI. Image reconstruction is one area in which developers can gain efficiency and resource management, as we talked about on For the Record. Now, while AMD continues to improve their FSR technology, it's still not as advanced as Nvidia's DLSS, which uses AI in its image reconstruction thanks to onboard hardware in the GPU. Intel has also taken this route, putting forth XeSS, which is more akin to DLSS, sorry for all the acronyms here, so we'll have to see how AMD responds in the future. There are rumors that AMD's RDNA 3 cards will feature more advances in this area, but we'll have to wait a few more months to know for sure. Regardless, developers are always thankful for additional resources which allow them to make games more detailed, vibrant, vast, and more. The efficiency gain of presenting a 4K image to the player while only having to process a 1080p image is incredible, and can not only improve future games, but extend the performance life of older hardware, which ties back to the console conversation. But when it comes to AI though, what I get most excited about are the possibilities when it comes to actual gameplay. Feels like some of us have been talking about this for generations now, and it seems like we're finally on the cusp of developers being able to use AI in their games to tailor parts of the experience to individual players. While this has generally been used to a more simple degree to date, for instance how NPCs may adjust their behavior slightly depending on tracked player behavior, it will become much more complex. One of the ways I'm excited to see this is conversational AI. So to many, they may not even recognize how often they interact with AI in today's world. Whether you've asked Siri for directions, speak to Google or Alexa while at home, or even call into IVRs for companies you have to deal with, conversational AIs have evolved rapidly in the past several years. The ability for these AIs to determine not only the intent of the speaker, but tone is truly impressive and has broad application within games in the future. I'm sure many of us have played RPGs or story-driven games where you make conversational choices, your Mass Effects, Dragon Ages, Telltale games, etc. Now imagine that you had the capability to respond to conversations in several ways rather than two or three, and could even control the tone of your responses like a real conversation. Imagine that squad mates and NPCs had a definable likability factor of you and the player based on how you treated them, and developers could code them to help, offer missions, provide gear, etc. based upon those characteristics. The possibilities here are truly endless, and as I work in these areas in my career, it's one of the aspects of gaming that I'm most excited to see evolve in the years and even decades to come. Yes, I know if any developers are listening to this, I realize I'm way out there in front, but come on, we have to have a little fun imagining the future too, right? It can't just be all stats, figures, and mathematics. So I want to move over to the way that people and players connect with their games, as that will be one of the other areas we continue to see a rapid shift within the coming years. It's hard to believe that it was only a generation ago that we lost our minds over digital game ownership, owning games across multiple consoles, cross-play, purchasing once for upgrades on console, free to play with microtransactions, and more. If you actually take a step back and look at the details over the past decade, gaming has evolved, particularly in the console space, massively. And this will not slow down. In fact, I believe it will accelerate. On our last producer roundtable, we discussed live service games and where they are heading in the future. If it's not exceedingly clear to you by now, it should be. Live service will be a staple in the industry in the future. And yes, that goes for PlayStation and Nintendo as well. With the gaming industry continuing to grow year over year, and the revenue stream becoming more focused around in-game purchasing and continued engagement plays, such as cosmetics, battle passes, licensed characters, etc., you can expect more and more of this to show up across the board. And it isn't simply the usual suspects either, like I said. PlayStation shifting upwards of 40 to 45% of its investment to live service and mobile by 2025, and Nintendo investing additional resources into their online infrastructure. Everyone is vying for a piece of that pie. Meanwhile, after generations of walled gardens, we're finally reaching the age where players can play together no matter the platform. Not only will crossplay become a norm in the future, you can expect a much broader and simpler integration of things like chat and content sharing. We're already seeing Discord integration beginning to take place on consoles, and that will expand over time. But of course, I can't talk about sharing without capturing, editing, and streaming. Of course, it's almost hard to say this given the unbelievably archaic approach that Xbox of all companies has taken with its upload studio side of things, but I'm confident they've got a much larger focus on that in the future. The social media impact of gaming and sharing cannot be overstated, and it's critical to the success of developers, particularly smaller developers, that they support it as much as possible. Sharing clips, funny moments, and streaming from consoles will continue to improve and expand, with more options and a focus on simplicity, like I said. While both Xbox and PlayStation have been supporting smartphone apps today that continue to improve as well, they will become a much larger focus in the future, with interconnectivity between game, smartphone, and social media in real time. More importantly, at least to developers and publishers, they will aim to keep you connected to their game in some form daily. We see today things like daily login bonuses, weekly events. You can absolutely expect them to go further. It's funny to me, honestly, as I remember things like the Dreamcast VMU, which was essentially the essence of this concept 20 years ago. But anyway, we've seen developers dabble in this space before with companion apps and the like, but as competition increases and the need to drive engagement increases with it, you can fully expect companies to look at expanded ways to keep players connected and engaged, even when away from their console or PC. As I noted in my prior video about where the big three are headed financially, You can see further evidence of this presented directly by the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan. PlayStation is investing heavily into the PC and mobile space, and just this week as I'm recording this, actually partnered with Backbone to release an officially supported PlayStation mobile gaming controller for smartphones. Being able to game, and more importantly, connected to your games and ecosystems anywhere you go globally is the future. And that, my friends, leads me to the one thing I'm going to mention today that I'm not excited about, and that is play to earn. Now, while I don't like to be someone who judges a concept before we've seen it realized, this is one I'm really struggling with. For me, the heart of the microtransaction concern was around value and developers, particularly in single-player or progression-based games where the game's coding had to occur around paid bonuses. We've heard the word convenience used in this area many times. And of course, as it relates to PvP-based games, pay to win. For the most part, we've seen enough outrage and quite frankly mistakes through the past decade that it hasn't gotten too bad. Diablo Immortal. Ugh. But pay to earn sounds to me like another battle waiting to happen, especially if it is one of the pillars of a game. Will developers find a way where the model can be engaging and meaningful while remaining unintrusive? I'll go ahead and say I'm cautiously pessimistic on this one. But as always, and I'll continue to say, time will tell. So I've mentioned globalization a few times now and being connected to your games from ecosystems all the time. One of the key factors of globalization is not only players from all corners of the earth engaging with video games, but developers as well. And one of the most exciting aspects of the future of gaming, at least to me, is the fact that so many new developers are beginning to break through from regions where there has traditionally been very little presence. We're beginning to see more games come out of China, India, Brazil, South Korea, list goes on and on. So you may ask, why is this exciting? Well, as our seasoned friends know listening to this, since the beginning of gaming, the heart of gaming culture has primarily been from Japan, North America, and Western Europe. And of course, this has been incredible. I don't want to take anything away from that, of course. But it also means that the vast majority of mythology, creativity, concepts, theology have primarily been limited to those cultures. The prospect of seeing AAA games built around new cultures, full of mythology, theology, and concepts of hundreds of different cultures is exciting. As one example, last year we saw Black Myth Wukong debut. People were blown away. The game is being made by an independent Chinese developer and based on the 16th century novel Journey to the West. Seeing that come to life on a grand scale is incredible, and it's going to be the tip of the iceberg as gaming's roots spread to new regions. So if you couldn't tell by now, I'm ecstatic for the future of the gaming industry. Gaming is at a crossroads right now where industry growth, technological advancements, financial investments, and development talent are all intersecting. The end result is going to be games that provide experiences unlike we've ever seen before. So I ask, how could you not be excited? To close out, as always, I want to sincerely thank our seasoned gaming patrons. We are a small outlet who work hard to bring you honest, professional, and meaningful content. And your continued support of that not only helps make it possible, it means the absolute world to us. So as always, thank you. Until next time.